Kia ora everyone and welcome back. Today I'm going to take you through the basics to Civilization 6. Now, I have a lot of other Civ videos on the channel, so if you're looking for more specific content, check them out. But this video is designed for new players to Civ 6, or players returning to Civ 6, because I found that the game is often given out for free. The base game, that is, anyway, is often given out for free. So I'm going to go single player, create a game. I'm going to start this one with standard rules, that's just the base game. But if you have DLC, you should play it on Gathering Storm. But I'm going to run it just off the base game, and I'm just going to do Prince difficulty. If you're new, you might want to choose Chieftain, Warlord, even Settler if you're entirely new to the franchise. But I'm going to play on Prince, which is standard. For game speed, I would recommend Quick. Or online if you're after a game that will only take a few hours. Like, literally the quickest speeds will take a few hours. So, yeah, I would recommend quick or online. I'm going to go online for the purpose of this video. And then you can change the map type, the map size, and enable some extra game modes. But basically the key here is just choose your leader. Choose who you want to be. I'm going to be Cleopatra for no reason other than the mouse was over her at the time. And then start game, and it's as simple as that. I thought I would just take you through that just in case, because this video is designed to be the very basics, the very sort of fundamental stuff of Civ 6. That being said, I will sort of weave in some more advanced tactics as well, where appropriate. But anyway, let's go through. I'm going to introduce you to the basic concepts of the game and how the first turn plays out, basically. That's the scope of this video. So let's just crack straight into it, because this loading screen is a great place to start. On the loading screen, you will see your civilization's unique ability, its unique unit, and its unique building or improvement. Now, if you don't understand those concepts at the moment, you don't need to, but just bear in mind, maybe take a picture, write it down, have a tab open on another screen or on your phone or whatever. Just take a note at what your Civ does well. Even if you don't fully understand the concepts of like gold or food or plus production or what a tile improvement is, that's fine. This is what the game looks like when you spawn in. And just a tip in the options menu, if you go options audio, you can adjust music and sound effects and all sorts. I have mine very low because I'm recording, but yeah, each to their own. Right, so this is how you spawn in, and in a normal game you will spawn in with a settler and a warrior. The warrior is a military unit, and the settler will create a city. This essentially founds your empire. Just quickly before we do that though, there are a couple of other options you might want to consider. In the game options, I have quick combat enabled and quick movement enabled. There are other ones here that you can mess with as well, but quick combat and quick movement I find speeds up the game a lot, because if you notice, so here's my warrior, I'm just going to move it one tile by right-clicking, clicking and holding, and you can see that it just sort of quickly moves, right? It just sort of jumps there. If you don't have those options enabled, it'll sort of slowly walk. It's more of an animation. It's quite pretty, but not practical. So I'm going to send my warrior, which is my military unit, out to start exploring the map. And you can see as I move this warrior, more of the map becomes available. That's because the fog of war is lifting as I'm exploring the area. The other unit that we start with is, of course, the settler. Now, the settler has an option down the bottom right here. Whenever you left-click a unit, you'll get their options down the bottom right. The settler can found a city, and you'll see that the game is giving me some tool tips. And if I hover over it, I can see, you know, this is a great spot for a city because it has access to fresh water, which is great. New resources that I don't have, obviously, etc., etc., so on and so forth. Generally, for new players, and even more advanced players, where you spawn, where the settler begins, is often a pretty good spot to settle. It may not be perfect, but it's usually pretty good. The game thinks about this when it spawns you in. So, I'm going to go down the bottom right and found my city. And boom, my settler has turned into a city. If my map looks a little bit different to yours, I would invite you to come down to the top left, the bottom left of the screen, where you can see a whole load of different lenses and map options. Now, some of these are more advanced and we'll cover them in future videos, but the second left here, map options, just has three really simple tips. If you have the DLC, there are more, but three really simple tips. You can show grid, you can show resource icons, and you can show yield icons. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to have show resource that tick was so glitchy. Show resource icons on and show the grid on as well. So and I recommend you do the same. The grid is good because you can see like this warrior has 2 movements per turn unless it's crossing a river or something difficult like mountains. So I can just sort of move it along the tiles and sort of, you know, gauge how far I've moved. And the resource icons, that is these little things here. So you can see stone, coffee, bananas. These are things that if we build a city on them and then send a worker out to improve them, we can collect these resources and get whatever bonuses they offer. Bananas may be food, stone is production, so on and so forth. Now I'd like to move to the fundamental mechanics of the game. Up the top left you can see science per turn, culture per turn, faith per turn, and gold per turn. Also envoys. We'll leave those for now. These, particularly science, culture, and gold, are fundamental to the game. Gold allows you to purchase things. Culture allows you to work through the cultural tree. And science allows you to unlock new technologies, and therefore new buildings, and units, and military, and so on and so forth. Those are the sort of fundamentals. If you're playing with DLC, you might have more icons up here as well. You may have one for tourism and other things. But these are the fundamental ones that every player will have. So I'm just going to cover those for this video. Let's bounce back to our city now. You can see this is the Egyptian capital, of course. It's our only city. And when I click it here and select it, you can see I have some options down the bottom right. And you can basically see what the city is producing. So it's producing 1.3 culture per turn. It's producing some food, which allows it to grow. It's producing production. Sounds weird, but bear with me. A little bit of science per turn, no faith, and some gold. Right, so that's what it's doing right now. Of these icons, one in particular that is interesting that I'll cover in a separate video, and actually I covered it with Civ 5 as well, and it works exactly the same. So you can check out my Civ 5 specialist video, and it's identical. But basically, when I click this little manage citizens, you can see that at the moment I have 2 citizens in this city. One because the literal city is here, and then my 1 population, which is what that 1 means there. You can see 1 population is working this tile. So the citizens are working this tile. You can tell because the face is blue, light blue rather than dark. And so they're working that tile and they're producing 3 food and 1 production. And that's adding into our totals. So this tile is producing 2 food and 1 production. And this tile, this area, is producing 3 food and 1 production. And that's how we get the total 5 food that's being produced. And then if we mouse over here, we can see that in 3 turns, because we're producing a surplus of food, 3 per turn, our city will grow. So in 3 turns, this will be a size 2 city. And we'll get 1 extra citizen. And that citizen will be able to work another tile. Maybe this one, to get another 3 food and 1 production. That's fundamentally how it works. You can reassign them, but again, that's a little more advanced. So we'll just click that again and leave it. The last thing we have to do with the city itself is choose production. So a city can build something, and a city will always be building something. It's always using its production, in this case 4.1 production, to build something. Whether it's a unit that we can walk around the map, or a building within the city that adds to its yield. For turn 1, I would generally recommend that you build the monument. A scout is also not a bad idea. A scout is a fast-moving unit that can quickly walk around the map and reveal the map. And maybe you need some military. A builder can improve tiles. But I would generally recommend that you build a monument first turn, just to get that culture, just that starting culture, starting to work it up. I'm going to click builder because I'd like to have a builder unit just to show you. But yeah, generally you want to probably not do that. Now, the next thing we have to do, whoa, what is this, you might be thinking? Don't panic, it's actually not as bad as it looks. That was the tech tree. So the next thing we have to do on our first turn is decide what technology we want to research. Just in the same way that a city is always building something, you are always researching technology. The speed in which you research it is determined by your science per turn. And that's improved by building scientific buildings in your cities, specific units, so on and so forth. Anyway, you have to choose a research. Open up the tech tree. You can see that as we progress through the game, there are more and more advanced technologies, right the way through to nuclear bombs and lasers. But in the beginning, back here, we're just sort of learning how to write and, how to make clay pots and put animals behind a fence, so on and so forth. Generally, you're going to need to pick up these early technologies. But I would encourage you to just sort of take a little look around the tech tree and think about what things you might need specific to you. If you're an ocean-faring civilization, you might want to go for sailing first to get fishing boats. Maybe you have lots of fish. For the purpose of this video, I'm going to grab pottery. Pottery is one of the prerequisites for writing, and writing allows us to build scientific buildings. One other thing I will briefly mention, but not go into in a lot of detail, is you can speed up the research time for each technology by boosting it. And you can see the boost requirements under each one. So if I meet another civilization, I will research writing twice as fast. I guess because I've learned the secrets of writing off them, right? That's kind of the idea. But for now, I'm just going to pick one of these basic ones. They have no boosts. You're going to need to get them sooner or later. You can see the advisor will recommend you certain things based off your Civ as well. So I'm just going to grab pottery. It seems good. But yeah, study the tech tree and bear in mind that you have these boosts, you have these eurekas that you could work towards. So I'm going to try and meet another civilization before I research writing, because I'll get it in 5 turns rather than 9. And that's it for our first turn. You might be thinking, the avid viewer will be thinking, what about culture? We haven't picked a cultural policy. And you're right. If I hit up the top left here, you can see that we're already researching the code of laws. If I click it, I can open the civics tree. And just like science, culture also has a tree, the civics tree, which you can work through and unlock different bonuses and policies. Now, that is something for an entirely separate video, so I'm not going to delve into it purely because there is only one cultural civic to research in the beginning, and it researches it by default. And fundamentally, this tree works the same way as the science tree, but it's unlocked with culture per turn rather than science, right? So you sort of understand fundamentally how it works, but I'm going to leave tiles and policy improvements out of this video because it's quite a wide scope. But essentially, you unlock these bonuses and you can equip the bonuses, is fundamentally how it works. And that's it. We've made it to the end of our first turn. You can click next turn in the bottom right, and that's it. You'll go straight into your next turn. If you have auto unit cycle on in your options, it'll throw you toward a unit. I've turned it off because I don't like that. But you can see I'm just going to sort of hold right click and sort of just start sending my warrior around. I'm scouting out for any bonuses on the map for other civilizations, but also I'm looking for somewhere where I might want to put my next city, because in Civ 6 you can expand quite quickly. So I'm also looking for opportunities, and there's a barbarian on the horizon as well. I'm just going to quickly skip through these turns. If you were, you would probably play these a little slower if you weren't purely recording how to start a Civ game, the basics of Civ video. But for the purpose of this, I'm just going to speed through, mainly because I want that builder, right? And I'm going to end the video with 2 things that you're probably going to do in and around your first turns. That's why I've just sort of quickly skipped ahead here. Firstly is fighting barbarians. So around the map there will be barbarians. They are not other players. They are not AI, city-states, or civilizations. They are purely, absolutely reckless barbarian warlords, and you can just run around and kill them. So great early military game, and a tip for you there. And then finally, I just want to show you how the builder works as well, because it's a fundamental unit to the game. And it works differently than it does in Civ 5, quite differently than we've seen it in the past. So in this game, you walk around a builder just like you would with any other unit. So here's the builder, it's spawned here. I'm going to walk it to this tile. Now, builders in this game have essentially 3 builds that they can complete. Certain policies and civs can give you more, but by default they have 3. So this builder can improve 3 tiles, and once it does that, it will disappear. So it's not like previous games where a builder could just stay alive forever and just constantly improve tiles. In this game, they can only do it 3 times, so you have to be a little more selective. What I mean by improved tile is when I select my builder and I come down to the bottom right here, you can see its special option, other than just moving or skipping its turn or falling asleep. The dream, is to improve tiles. So I've moved on to this flat grassland, and you can see the game is recommending me, hey, build a farm. I'm going to do it for the purpose of this tutorial. I would recommend you that you connect these resources when you can, but for now, let's just build a farm. So I can hover over this. You can see that it's going to add 1 food to this tile, not necessarily to the city, because remember from the beginning of the video, we actually need a citizen to be working the tile, although now that we've skipped ahead, we have a population of 3. But it's going to add 1 food to that tile and also provide housing. Because your population needs housing. It's another metric within Civ 6 that hasn't existed in Civ 5, but it's basically a way to balance population growth. So I'm going to click that, and bam, you can see, boom, instantly, unlike in Civ 5 where you'd have to wait a few turns, that's the upside, it's instantly improved that tile and built a farm. And now if I click back into my city and click Manage Citizens, you can see that this tile, unlike at the start of the game, is now yielding 3 food. That's fundamentally how the builders work in this game. And that's the last thing that I wanted to cover for this video because I don't want it to drag on. I've looked across YouTube and I've seen, there are some fantastic introduction to Civ videos, but they go for like an hour. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to spend necessarily an hour, right? There's a time and place for really long guides like that. But I think if you can sort of cover it in 10 to 20 minutes, that's the ideal length. So I'm going to leave it here. And I'm going to thank you very much for watching. If you would like more content, I have loads of Civ content on my channel. Lots of Civ 5, and I'm starting to produce a lot more Civ 6 as well. Also, one thing that I would mention just before I go, a specific video is I have a guide on the DLC for this game because I understand that a lot of people have picked up Civ 6 for free, which is really cool, but they are a little confused about the DLC because there's a whole load of DLC and it's like what one do I buy, what one overrides the other. It can be quite confusing, so check out that video in the description and the comments maybe below if I'm clever. I'm not, so probably not. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching. Please do subscribe, enjoy our rapidly growing community, and otherwise I will see you next time for some more hot Civ 6 action.